Welcome to Unspoken, Community and Business Conversations. We're your host. I'm Chardonnay Graham.
And I'm Kofi. I'm Ponsa.
Thanks for tuning in. Today we are talking about RFPs. That stands for Requests for Proposals. We'll get into the details about that in just a second. We'll also be talking about our newfound holiday that we just recently celebrated this weekend, Juneteenth, and what that really means to the Black community. So let's hop right in. Again, RFPs are requests for proposals. Companies and organizations request these from agencies and consultants in order to basically bid on a project. So when an organization or company has a project and they want to scout the best agency for it, they'll do a request for proposal, which basically asks you to kind of list everything that you would do for them in response to that project. And oftentimes it asks for a lot of details, like it can literally be 10 to 15 pages long, asking with details. And so the reason why we're talking about this topic today is because, it's starting to get out of hand a little bit. We're finding that there's like some trouble with this. So Kofi, you go ahead. I've given people the background and you get into the meat and potatoes of it.
So the biggest problem with RFPs in general is, you have a business or a client or an organization, they want you to give them ideas or they want you to basically put in work that if they had an employee would put in to create a strategy or a plan or create the framework of an idea for them. And they're doing all of this for free. And it's also, you're also signing over some of your ideas to them because you don't know what they're going to take, you don't know who they're going to work with, and you don't know if they're using your ideas. Like, all you know is that you've given them a bunch of ideas and now they're going to use that to determine if your idea is worthy enough of them paying you and having you come on. Nothing says that they can't use what you've actually given them to do it. So.
And in fact, a lot of companies are actually starting to put that in their RFP, saying that unless you specifically specify what is intellectual property, that everything that you give to them, they then own. They're starting to put that clause in there because I'm sure some people probably have raised hell, as far as being like, hey, that's my idea that I gave to you in a request for proposal. And so, it's obviously this is there's two sides to this. On one end, it is beneficial for the client to get some kind of pitch from the agencies, but again, as Kofi mentioned, you're essentially giving them the entire strategic plan. People pay thousands of dollars for a strategic plan by itself, yet with these requests for proposals, they're often asking for just as much detail without paying for any of it up front. And so statistically, they're even starting to see that a lot of companies are getting these requests for proposals and basically just taking bits and pieces of what they want from each one and then having their team implement it in-house. But so as a consultant, as an agency, how do we combat this? Because it's you got to bid on the work if you want the client.
Yeah.
And so now that's where it's kind of become a bit of a hassle for the agencies because it's costing a lot of time and money to put these requests for proposals together. But if you don't, then you have no way of bidding on the project.
I mean, it's funny you even mentioned how much, you're putting time and effort in it. Some research I read said companies vendors that are actually bidding are spending maybe the equivalent of $5,000 putting in the hours and ideas and just coming up with strategies on how to execute things. And you see, the main issue with RFPs and also is that the organization who's put out this RFP, they already have a plan or an idea of what they want to achieve. Now they're trying to make you fit into a box and give them the best solution to achieve that. And what's sad is that sometimes an organization may be told that you're doing an RFP and you need to have at least 3 bids or 4 bids. So they may have someone they already want to work with, and now they just had a bunch of other people bring in ideas, and now they can basically look at all these ideas and give it to whoever they select.
Yep.
So it's totally unfair. I mean, if you're asking the best thing for agencies to do is just if everyone said we are not taking RFPs anymore, that would be the best solution.
Yeah, I mean, and so I'll admit, I think I'm with that movement. And so, I have something else I want to touch on before we, go on to our next topic. But like for me, and as for Touch Cleveland, I think that we might have to, really do some brainstorming in the background and decide, what's even going to be our criteria for when we decide to submit an RFP. We did, our research on this, and an article that I was reading was saying that if the request is more in the favor of the client, as far as the amount of information that it requests, and as far as what it's requesting of your intellectual property, don't even bother, because that is a situation where they're pretty much telling you, like, we're gonna just take your ideas, we have no intention on hiring you. So this is a new challenge for us in this business, and so I would just encourage anybody else out there that's a consultant, and especially if you are a small business, stop doing RFPs for free, charge for those, because one thing that I have seen too, which I really want to touch on, and I hope that this is not correct, but I would almost guarantee that if a study was done on it, we would find something here. There has been an influx of requests for proposals from Black agencies. Touch Cleveland has received, very randomly at that. I thought it was just because we were doing an amazing job, but we have received a ton of requests for proposals, especially following, the George Floyd incident, and just all of the movements in social justice that have come out of that. And of course, a lot of people now are implementing these DE&I initiatives, and more Black agencies are being tapped on for their ideas on, how to connect to the Black community. But I'm really, really, really curious as to how many Black agencies and consultants have actually won the bids on these projects. Because what I'm saying is, just your typical thing, like they want to pick our brains, but then they don't think we have enough experience to actually handle the job.
I mean, like, it would be nice to have some transparency where if I bid for your RFP, I should know who won. Like, there has to be a way where we can, like, see, okay, you didn't take my idea, but who won it? Let's see how fair it is.
Yeah.
There's no transparency. You don't even know how many people bid, how many, like, you don't know the background of, like, the vendors who actually bid for it.
You get no information after submitting it. Like, so, I didn't think about that, but, from our own personal experience, there were at least 2 or 3 RFPs that we submitted within the last year where we specifically followed up and said, hey, can you give us any feedback as to why we didn't receive, the project, and who received the project. And I don't think we've ever gotten that feedback. And we've asked directly for it. So I do think that should be a requirement if you're passing over your intellectual property. And maybe that's the key. If you can't charge for it and you still want to put the bid in, maybe we need to start coming with our own requirements for, submitting an RFP.
But it's interesting how people will reach out to you or go out of the way to reach out to you and tell you about, like, this opportunity or give you an RFP, talk to you about it and everything. But once it's done and let's say you're not successful, that's it. Like, the communication just it ceases. Like, you were all nice and friendly when you wanted to, like, you wanted to look like you support diversity, but once you finish with that, like, you checked your box, like, we had people bid, like, different vendors bid. Now it's over. No communication, nothing. Like, it's kind of messed up.
Yeah, I mean, so to that point, I can recall too, like, somebody just asking a certain organization, or saying that they want to develop these relationships with, Black agencies. But what was interesting about that, and kind of to your point, is that they weren't even offering requests for proposal. It was just like, this partnership that, again, has, like, no monetary value attached to it whatsoever. And again, just like this notion where now all of a sudden the Black voice and opinion and our ideas are needed, but the value in it for some reason is still not there.
Yeah, we have the ideas, but I guess we're not experienced enough. We've not put in as many hours or as many years as they've, like, some organizations have been entitled or privileged to have. So I don't know if they think they're being smart about this, but they are definitely taking advantage of just minorities and Black people in general since the whole George Floyd, the uprising and everything. people want to seem like diverse. They want ideas from black people. They want to implement or be part of these things. But when it comes down to it, no one's willing to sign a check or hand money over.
They'll consult us, but then still go hire the big agencies, big named agencies that have been around and been doing things. Yeah.
If you want to have black agencies or diverse agencies of minorities where they have experience, you need to give them money. You need to pay them for services. You can't just pick someone's brain every day.
And just not to mention, to your point, and we see this across the board in general, kudos to the organizations and companies that are still leading efforts and initiatives in DE&I. I'm glad to see it. However, let's just be real, and we're going to get into this next month's topic, but it's still being led by a lot of predominantly white organizations. And I think you were touching on that in an earlier point too, where it's like, again, our opinions are valued, but ultimately we're not the ones leading the initiatives or getting the credit when it comes down to it. Not the monetary, not the capital or the credit. Because even if it's just consulting, it's like, I still would prefer somebody, if a white organization is getting ideas from us for an event or for any other initiative, to still say, hey, Touch Cleveland, help with this event. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing predominantly white organizations come out with initiatives that really don't have us at the table.
Yeah, it's to let everyone know that they want us to be at the table. They don't necessarily want us at the table. It's a touchy topic, the whole RFP, and a lot of people wanting bids and even partnerships. People always throw out the words collaborate, and collaborate is just a way of, I don't want to pay you, because
and collaboration is when it's a mutually beneficial situation, but it at least has to be mutually beneficial.
Exposure is not beneficial, people.
No.
You can't pay your rent with exposure. You can't pay bills with exposure. People need to be paid. If their ideas is getting you a bigger growth, bigger audience, you need to be able to give people money for it so that they know what they're doing is worth it, and then giving them value also lets them not be cheated in the future. If you're paying me well, next time I meet another client, I know what to expect. And at the same time too, if someone's getting paid, they invest in their skills, they grow, and that's the type of money we need. So I
think we said it all. The reality is, nothing is free. Everything costs something. And so again, just a message to the consultants and to the other small business owners, it's time for us to rally up, about these RFPs. Like, something has to give. And the only way that we're going to be able to demand a better outcome for ourselves with that is if we all kind of have the same standard. So I think, we might have to start, being the ones to set some industry standard as far as hey, what we require to even give an RFP and or costing. And, I think this kind of just this disconnect as far as, the value of the Black voice in the community is going to lead us into our next topic around Juneteenth. Before we get into our next topic, like to take a moment to share some big news. Touch Cleveland has finally relaunched our associate group, which means we have our open enrollment right now. Now, if you don't know about our associate group, it's because we kept it very, very quiet for a long time. We've worked with several small businesses on smaller projects and kind of tested and tried some things over the years to make sure that this would be really beneficial. So essentially, our associate group is a marketing collaborative where we have found a way to provide marketing guidance and services to small businesses almost for completely free.
And let me just emphasize, it's amazing. Just having this associate group, it wows small businesses that they get enrolled, and it's such a brilliant idea. Shah was telling me about this from the time I started, and we're finally now getting it implemented. It's a beautiful thing.
I think he thought I was crazy at first when he's like, what? You want to provide marketing services for free? Yeah, for free. Okay. I know it's crazy, but we've come up with a system that so far is working pretty well, and now we're finally ready to open up the floodgates and start letting more businesses in. So a little bit about the associate group. I'm not going to throw all the details out there, but again, essentially you're getting marketing services and guidance for free. We give hands-on work strategy sessions, lead generation, as well as ongoing consult and support. Consultations are free for now, so if you're interested in learning more about the associate group and how you can be a part of this, go to touchclee.com, request a consultation, and we'll set up a date to talk.
And don't forget to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Let this thing grow so that it's beneficial for everyone in this group.
Oh, and that's the thing. That is key right there, because definitely the way we have set this up, the more of you it is, the better it is for each of you. So exactly. A lot of exciting things coming out of Touch Cleveland. All right, so moving on to our next topic, Juneteenth. Yes. Jesus, Lord. Man, listen, there's so much I want to say. That's all I can say, okay? So, as you guys know, Juneteenth has officially been made a federal holiday. Juneteenth is basically the day that slaves in Texas finally found out that we were free. So I'm not the best with the historical dates, guys, but so we were free. The Emancipation Proclamation was signed, or was it Declaration? No, yeah, Emancipation Proclamation was signed. We were set free, but of course, back then we didn't have social media, cell phones. Slaves, of course, could not read. They were not getting news like that. So we relied very heavily on word of mouth back then. Okay, so there was quite some time before news reached the slaves in Texas. They had no idea they were free, and of course their masters weren't about to share that news. And so Juneteenth is basically the day where the news hit the last state as far as letting slaves know that they were free to go. So Black people, maybe not all Black people have been aware of this date, but quite a few of us have been aware of this date for a long time. And I would say, at least for me and my circle of friends, I feel like we've been celebrating Juneteenth for at least the last 5 years, at least. And now all of a sudden, of course, again, with the George Floyd incident, it's now become a federal holiday. How are you feeling about that, Kofi?
Well, until I moved here, I never knew about Juneteenth, and now it's a federal holiday. And I personally think there's a lot of pandering going on with it. Although I do support having Juneteenth, what people think it's about, I feel like making it a federal holiday, now everyone's just kind of, it's not really a day off, you're still going to work anyway.
At least the essential workers, maybe the corporate people are getting a day off, and how many of us are
exactly. So,
in those kind of roles?
It would be nice to celebrate it, but I think if it's going to be celebrated, that it's the last day that people found out like slavery has ended. There needs to be like a change in mentality. Like, we have all these things going on, but like critical race theory, just teaching about racism in school is being kind of banned. It's like banned in 10 states or something
15.
Like that. So 15 states.
Which, the irony in that, you
right?
make a federal holiday, yet at the same time across the country, it is literally being banned, and teaching race and racism and the history of racism in this country is literally being banned.
Right.
So I think, who was it? Trevor Noah that made a joke like, "Happy Juneteenth, the first holiday that you can't teach about in schools."
Exactly.
Like, wait, what?
Yeah, you're giving people a day off, but now they basically can't even talk about it. Like, what are they gonna? It makes no sense. Like, while these things are happening, everything's kind of rolling back. Your voting is getting harder to, like, it's harder for people to even register to vote now. So these things are happening, but people should be happy about Juneteenth. I don't think people are angry enough right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit, I know that it was a win for a lot of individuals. There are some people who have been supporting and preaching about Juneteenth, to their respective organizations for a long time. So some people really got their dreams and prayers answered this year as far as, even wanting the holiday to be acknowledged. And I am glad that it is acknowledged now because, like you said, there's so many people who just knew nothing about it, whether they're, a native of this country or not. And at the very least, I hope that it does bring, just the curiosity to the forefront, or for the people who, again, just maybe deny slavery altogether, that it brings the stories to the forefront. But again, if we're not able to teach it in schools, I'm not really sure how the two go together. Personally, for me as well, I have a issue with Hallmark holidays, what I call Hallmark holidays. And I view this as just another way for the big corporations to capitalize off of the black spending dollar. And so I just strongly encourage that, going forward, anything for Juneteenth that you support, make sure that it is, for black owned businesses, for black owned and organized and organizations. Like, we need to make sure that that's something that stays in the house. We can't allow for that to start going over to organizations that are predominantly, it just doesn't make sense. The other thing that's like really grinding my gears, and I'll get off my soapbox, and I know you probably have something to say about this too, is just how, we have a whole anti-hate crime against Asian Americans that passed, a crime bill that passed, yet, we have an anti-lynching bill that's been on the table since like the Emmett Till days that hasn't passed. How is lynching still literally like, it's still, I think, in like some of our state laws or something crazy like that. Like, it's actually still legal in some states. I just don't understand how something like that cannot be passed, yet, again, you have this anti-hate bill for Asian Americans passed like overnight.
I mean, like the anti-hate bill that was passed, it was, it's pretty quick, and it's pretty interesting and telling how that got passed real quick. And I was reading something, and it's interesting. They were talking about how organizations, like not even the organizations, people, the government has found a way of making Asian Americans seem more human than black people. Now, if you look at how things are like going on, when the shooting happened in that was it the spa?
Yeah.
So when that
salon,
so when that happened, the guy was having a bad day. He attacked Asians. Now, black people have attacked Asians, and we can't condone that. It's wrong. But when that happened, those people got called a different name. They weren't mentioned as having a bad day. They were mentioned as like attackers, black. How people are
terrorists.
portrayed.
Yeah,
it's a problem. Now, it is like the fact that this got passed so quick. I mean, yes, it needs to get passed, but since George Floyd happened, nothing really got passed. Like, we're still waiting for like Breonna Taylor to get justice. Ahmaud Arbery, look how long that's what's happening with that. Like, why did they have to take people going out protesting, riots
all over
occurring,
the world,
just for nothing to actually happen? All we've actually got now is George Floyd finally getting a piece of justice, because only one person has been like.
Yeah, and see, to me,
so
that's not justice. I mean, thankfully, yes, Chauvin was found guilty, but like you said, that's only one person being held accountable.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's on the table that has yet to pass. I forget the specific name of it, but there's like a George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, and that's supposed to ban chokeholds and just police brutality in general. Like, why are these things not passed? Another one, the Crown Act, which is at least starting to pass in certain states, but basically telling employers like, hey, you can't deny a person a job or fire them because they choose to wear dreads or braids. These are cultural ways that we wear. These are ways that we wear our hair that's specific to our culture and our grade of hair. And the fact that that's even a thing. We have the critical race theory that you mentioned. All of these different things that we've been fighting for, that are attacking more of the root issue that, you know, systemic racism in this country, and those are the things that's just being completely ignored.
Right.
Yet we get another holiday. And I mean, again, don't get me wrong, we're happy about that, but for the people who, you know, were out there barbecuing and having a good time and acting like the world has changed, guys, I need you to like wake up and take a bit of a closer look at how this is just another distraction. And we really have to demand more and not give so much kudos to basically just these symbolic BS. I'm gonna just call it what it is.
So, I mean, yeah, that's totally it. Like, be happy. Like, let's be happy that it's finally getting recognized. But at the same time, that day, use it to fight, continue the good fight, because you know things have not been, nothing really has. No steps have been like taken forward since last year. And the most interesting thing is all these laws on hold and some getting passed, and Florida managed to pass a law which allows people to run over people if they're protesting or rioting and they get in their way. So you know, you can see that the law is not favoring who it should be favoring sometimes. The system still is broken. So celebrate that holiday, but use that holiday to empower people who look like you. And I'm talking about people who look like you. So like,
Absolutely.
We still have a long way to go. This is just, it's a holiday, but now let's see the holiday become more.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I also say for the individuals who work the, I guess you say the hospitality jobs, you know, you guys, if 2020 taught you nothing, it taught you that you essentially run the world. And so you guys have a lot of power when it comes to, you know, just walking out and not doing certain things. And so I think that the essential workers industry, you know, literally, I think you guys should realize that you have a lot of power to make demands as to what Juneteenth looks like in the companies you represent. Because I mean, you know, what good is Juneteenth doing to the average black worker who is in these type of hospitality jobs if they still have to go to work and probably be treated disrespectfully by a bunch of disgruntled customers who just, you know, want their Juneteenth 20% off meal or God, whatever other sale is going on to get people through the door. So yeah, man, I didn't celebrate, to be honest. I couldn't. I was a little too angry at just the thought of, you know, all of the people we've lost over the last year. You know, you named several of them. And then, yes, you mentioned the situation with the salon, and I know there were other incidents, but it's like that seemed to be the one major incident, yet we can probably name 10 major incidents between 2020 and this year against African Americans.
Three people get murdered and nothing got passed. So it just shows that, you know, Juneteenth, but does Juneteenth really mean what it should mean? Like, are people really free? So.
Oh man, you just touched on another topic.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that brings us to the end of this episode of Unspoken. Hope that you enjoyed this conversation. Feel free to like, comment, share. We will still be looking at some of the comments and getting back to you guys. If you got an idea, if it's something that you want to get off your chest, if it's something you feel like is unspoken, let us know. We'll be here next month talking about DE&I and just, oh God, we're going to unpack the mess out of that. Stay tuned. I really want you guys to join in. So yeah, please look out for that next episode.
Oh, and don't forget to, check out our associate group one more time.
Oh yes. Shameless plug. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Unspoken.